Welcome. This is Jordan with Foodbevy, the online community for food and beverage founders. Today, I have the honor to talk to Amanda Harari, head of division for her Woken Coffee, a line of sustainable, compostable coffee pods for Nespresso machines. So, Amanda, let's get right to it. I'd love for you to give me a quick intro of Woken Coffee, the product, and how you got started.
What we do is we sell Italian premium espresso in compostable and compatible Nespresso for your espresso original line machine. So we're certified compostable, industrial compostable by OK Compost, and we got started a little while ago. Took a little while to find like the right suppliers and the right people in place to get this going, but finally we did, and here we are. So that's a lot of it was the supply chain and looking for the right people to work with.
I'm curious, talk about some of those difficulties in the supply chain. Was it on the coffee side or on the packaging?
I think it's mostly just finding suppliers that you can develop like relationships with and that you can trust. And so I think we had originally started with a different supplier and that didn't go very well. And then we had found finally another supplier, and then sort of through them we're able to really create this product and this branch, through different suppliers and kind of putting everything together. So it took a little while, but finding all the moving pieces definitely takes some time. And I think that's a good 6 months. I would say vet your suppliers extremely carefully and negotiate your pricing for testing first. Like, do not buy a container without knowing them. Even if you have to fly to go meet them, do that.
That's a really good point. So in terms of 2020, I know it's been a little bit of a roller coaster of a year. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced this year so far?
I think the challenges are I think this year's a little bit of an anomaly, obviously, because of COVID. Luckily, we've been really lucky in that we try to really operate very lean and very, trying to really maximize budgets and be really responsible with the financing that we have. So I would just say probably with COVID, probably the difference has really been looking at our resources and figuring out how should we utilize them and what should we do and where should we put our resources, really, I think is like one of the different sort of things that we've looked at a little differently because of COVID.
Is most of your business e-commerce, or do you have any retail business as well?
Right now, we're just e-commerce. We're on Amazon.com and Woken.coffee. And we're also just got onto Walmart.com. So
awesome.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's a lot of work and very exciting. Yeah, so we really emphasize the e-commerce route right now, just because I think for where we're at in our business, that's the best option. We moved to Shopify about 8 months ago. And prior to that, for about a year, we were on Amazon.com. And I love Shopify. I'm their biggest fan. I love them. They really changed. Their platform really helps our business. Without their platform, our business, the website portion of our business would not be where it is.
I recently switched over for my business as well from WordPress WooCommerce to Shopify, and just the simplicity of it and the number of reports and everything that's baked in helps to easily be able to run your business.
That's what made the game changer for us on our website side. Amazon was always sort of operational and working. And really in the last 8 months, we really revamped and were like, hey, we're going to do this and switch over to Shopify. And it was the best decision I think I've ever made in my entire life.
Wow, that's a huge statement. I love that.
Top 10. There's always challenges with every platform or every new piece you introduce, but they definitely have an easy, especially if you're not a techie. Like, I'm not a programmer, so it helps. So, yeah.
No, I know you mentioned with Shopify that you love the analytics. What other features on the platform do you find really helpful?
We use Privy, we use Just Reviews. We actually use this great, it's like a carbon offset app as well. And so I think the fact that you can plug and play just really helps. You don't have to, and of course there's customizations and things like that. We use Recharge, so we give customers a lot of options. So yeah, it's just the whole, I would say I really like their ecosystem. Like I like that you enter the Shopify world and it's made for more, I feel like it's made for people who are more interested in being in business than people who are interested in being in tech necessarily. I don't know if that's also.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And looking at 2020 for the rest of the year, how do you expect consumers to shop and how do you expect their behaviors to change from everything that you've seen?
I mean, I think definitely we've seen online obviously have a surge due to COVID. I think food and beverage is a great sort of area. I mean, there's a lot of competition, but there's also, I think it depends what you want, right? I think if you're, I mean, I don't need to be, I mean, I won't say no to being Starbucks, but I don't need to be Starbucks. I'm very happy to have a small piece of the pie. You know, so I would say if you're okay with lots of competition and if you can find a way to carve out some space for yourself, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And there's also a lot of VCs as well. We're not VC funded, but there is that option as well, especially if you have something really revolutionary, I guess I would say. But I think shopping online is going to be really the future. And I think retailers are going to start going, like Instacart is really popular. And I think sort of looking for the consumer's attention is going to be a big thing.
Definitely. And then you mentioned a couple of the challenges along the way from supply chain to e-commerce and moving on to Shopify. How or what feedback or advice would you give another startup founder or someone who's interested in launching a company based on everything that you've learned?
Jokingly, maybe, but I would say like, you really have to want to do it. It's not an easy route. I sometimes I'm like, well, I should become an accountant or like a doctor or something, because it's really challenging, and not in like a bad way. It's in a great way. Like it's so interesting and there's so many facets and you wear so many hats and it has a very challenging point to it that you have to be really resilient, and you almost have to say, okay, like I'm going to try again every day. And it's very different, I think, than some other things that I've done where, you know, if you're working at a job or you're working with somebody or you're working with different people, like you might have a good day or bad. Like I just find in a day when you're working, it's like you could have a good day and a bad day in the same day. Like it's like a roller coaster in one day. You know, it's like, oh, you got a hotel order. Oh my God, that's amazing. Oh my God, we don't have enough inventory. Like you deal with like this. So I think that there has to be a level. I think you need a really strong idea of what you want to do with flexibility built in a little bit, because if you're so narrow and you need to pivot, it can be a little tricky. But I think if you have an overall vision that's clear, I think that'll help. And I would say you need a really strong stomach.
Very sage advice.
Like, it's very honest. I wish I could sugarcoat it if you want and make it sound great and pretty, but I'd rather not.
That's the reality of it. And I think, as you mentioned, like the roller coaster within the same day and the highs and lows is very true. And as your company grows, those problems don't go away. They just get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And
because you're doing more money and more problems.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, it's, you know what? It's like, I feel like every stage has its point or has its like challenges that come along with it. And you're just like, okay, I'm on for the ride. And I think one thing I would tell somebody also is, in our case, we work with a budget. Like we make a financial projection, and I find that really helpful. And so, for example, every year I do a financial projection and I do a strategic plan. And I find that really helps set my year and what I'm doing. So our fiscal year is May 1st to April 30th. And I just find that really helps me sort of make my decisions and plan. And obviously there's always room for some flexibility, and then just figure out, okay, who are the kind of people we need this year? What kind of things do we want to do? You know, if we want a hotel order or go and get into retail, or do we want to focus on Amazon? So all of those pieces really sort of get set at that time. And obviously things get added and subtracted in and out, but I find that definitely sets my tone for the year.
I love that. Amanda, thank you so much for the conversation today. I definitely appreciate it. Best of luck in the future, and great talking to you.
Thanks, you too.